Hi guys. I said I would do a video, so I'm doing it on what we should have done last week because quite a few of you messaged me to ask what we were doing, and I thought it might be easier to do a video. I'm doing it on this PowerPoint because this is the one that we've been using throughout the whole of the Global Community Project, well, and for FDP. So if you have a look, it's called the Advanced Skills Global Community Project Advice for Gaining Maximum Marks, and it's saved in the team. Have a look in the global community global community folder, and it's saved under GCP Gaining Maximum Marks Guidance PowerPoint. It's the only PowerPoint in there. So if you have a look through that, and we'll skim down to what we did last Wednesday. So we looked at, if you remember, a few weeks ago, we did 3 separate weeks on task 3. So we're going to recap on that. We've done our task 1A, task 1B. It's worth having a read through them as well, because what you're going to be doing for task 2 is you're going to be using all the information that you gleaned from task 1A and 1B and helping it to create your persuasive proposal. So task 3 planning, by the end of this week you should have completed step 1. So I need to check that for your task 3 recap, have you chosen a community action? I think most of you have. You should have a project plan by now. So if you go back over the work we did during those weeks, you should have a project plan, and you should be using something like a Gantt chart to prove that you're using some kind of project management. So you have to state what you're using, why you're using it. You also have to evidence this, so you have to talk about how you're going to evidence it. You're going to do a list of resources and timescales. So you're going to literally say, right, I'm going to start my community project on July the 5th, or whenever you're going to start. It's going to take 3 weeks to do. I'm going to do 2 hours every week, and it's going to happen on a Monday or a Wednesday. Or you've got to be specific about what your plans are. But then when it comes to later on, if you have to change those plans, there's going to be an area within your project where you're going to be talking about how you modified your plan and why you modified it, why you needed to. Okay, so you're going to have a list of specific tasks that you're going to be doing within the project and within your project plan. Okay, you're going to talk about your success criteria, like how will you know you've been successful? Not just if you're doing tutoring, it's not just about finding out if if the student has been successful. You need to know if you've been successful in your project, what you've created. So obviously, if your student has been successful, then you will need to find out how she's been successful. So you're going to use some kind of questionnaire or something like that to ask the student at the end of her studies, what did she find, whether was it successful? So that is the kind of thing as well that you can use to determine whether your project has been successful. How will you monitor your progress? You need to have talked about how you're going to monitor your progress. Are you going to use photographic evidence, videos, writing a diary, creating a blog, writing a podcast, anything like that? The more creative you are, the better your marks. Who completes your confirmation statement? Now remember, the confirmation statement is from the responsible adult, and it will get you 4 marks alone just for completing the statement. So make sure that you have a responsible adult signing off the statement to say that you've done the tasks that you're going to do. You need to have that responsible adult as well giving you feedback throughout the task, so that you have evidence of doing the task really. How are you going to gain the feedback? You could ask them to fill forms in, or you could ask them to just diarise everything that you've done. Literally, as long as it is evidenced, you just need to make sure that that is sent when you submit your work. How may you need to modify your behaviour? I've just mentioned that. So you could talk about that based around if you needed to change your plan for any reason. i.e. if you were doing a litter pick and it was raining on the day you decided to do it, then you'll need to change your plans accordingly. Okay, and how will you evidence that? Okay, everything you do needs to be evidenced. So when you hand in, it needs to be all on one document, which includes all your evidence for all the facts and everything that you've collected. Okay, so that is a recap on task 3. So if we have a look at this was week 2 of the plan, and where it says use pages 24 to 40 of the guidance handout. This is the guidance handout. If you remember, that is the document. Oh, it's a bit blurred, isn't it? Oh, I can't change it now. Anyway, the document is called Global Community Project Assessment Guidance Notes. It's the notes we've used throughout the project, and it is in the same file, community Global Community Project folder in Teams. Okay, so for the task 3 planning, this was week 2 of what we did. We did the Gantt chart. So make sure that you do the Gantt chart, because you're likely to get the 4 marks if you've got the Gantt chart. Obviously, it has to have the correct information in it, and you'll be sorted. This was right, task 3. Planning week 3. So if you look back at your work, you should have saved all the information that you gleaned on those 3 weeks ready for your task 3. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that after we've done task 2. Okay, so you should have put it together, a list of specific tasks, written the success criteria. I've just gone through that with you now. Now we're going to go on to, that was preparation for task 3. We're going to move on now to task 2, which is what you should have been doing last week and this week. Okay, so right, so last week, no, sorry, that's task 1B. Right, so task 2, by the end of this week, you should have completed step 1 and step 2. Step 1 is all about questioning the problem and is outlined on page 21 of the guidance handout. That same handout that I showed you now. It's called Global Community Project Assessment Guidance Notes. If you have a look at page 21, it breaks everything down for you in detail on what you need to do. Okay, so page 21. Also on page 19. It's called the persuasive proposal. So the task is about proposing solutions to a global issue on a local perspective. So what you've already looked into for your project is one specific sustainable development goal, and you've built your project, your community service around that, and your 6, if you remember on task 1B, you had to find 6 sources of information about your sustainable development goal. You had to use 5 global sources and 1 local source. So what you're doing with this persuasive proposal, you're going to be writing to a specific person, maybe an MP or anybody, to convince them that you need to do your project because it's going to help this particular achieve the sustainable development goal. So as an individual, you must explore how your chosen global issue is related to a problem in Wales or your local area that needs addressing. So we're looking at it from a global perspective, but you have to look at it from how it relates to your local area. So you must produce the persuasive proposal that identifies your most appropriate solution to the problem. So to begin with, step 1 is you're going to ask questions. So you're going to ask questions to identify, using meaningful questions, a complex problem that needs to be solved in your chosen area. Okay, so you're going to use a mind map for this. So you're going to put your what your what problem you're going to solve in the middle of the mind map, and then you're going to think of solutions around the centre of the problem, and then you're going to ask these questions about how to solve the problem. Now, you have to evaluate how this is going to happen. So you'll be able to ask the question like, say it was, how can we solve world hunger? Obviously, we're not going to solve world hunger, but there are things you can do on a local level that can contribute towards that. So you're going to make suggestions for what you can do, and you could say, well, we could, I don't know, we could produce more food. But that's not something that you can do yourself, and it's not something that you can initiate unless you actually live on a farm and you can produce more food, or you live on a kind of vegetable farm, so you can produce more vegetables, give them out to the locals. You need to literally look at the problems, what the solutions might be, and the actual feasibility of doing them. Then you're going to pick one solution that is doable by you, and you're going to write an email to the appropriate audience as a persuasive proposal. Now, this persuasive proposal, you're going to use persuasive language. By persuasive language, we're talking about things like flattery. So you're going to compliment your audience. An example of that would be, a person of your intelligence deserves much better than this. Then you could use opinion, which is a personal viewpoint often presented as if fact. So you could say, in my view, this is the best thing to have ever happened. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is used, it's an exaggerated language, and it's used for effect. So the type of sentence that you might use there would be, it is simply out of this world stunning. Then you can use personal pronouns. By using personal pronouns, it makes it more about me and about you. So you would say, you are the key to this entire idea succeeding. We will be with you all the way. I can't thank you enough. Okay, it's not woolly in any way. You're telling them they are responsible, and you're being responsible for doing your proposal. Imperative command, or I think in school they might have called that direct address. It's an instructional language, and that you would say to them, get on board and join us. You often see that on leaflets or on Facebook and Instagram adverts now, where they're advertising for you to join a course. It would be, get on board and join us now. Triples. Triples is another thing that's used as a persuasive technique. It's using 3 points to support an argument. It's often used in speeches by famous people, and you use 3, doesn't necessarily mean 3 words, it could be 3 sentences, but say an example would be, safer streets means comfort, reassurance and peace of mind for you, your family and your friends. So there's 2 sets of triples there. And you would use emotive language, vocabulary to make the audience or the reader feel a particular emotion. There are thousands of animals at the mercy of our selfishness and disregard for kindness. So you would use this emotive language to make your point. Statistics and figures, factual data used in a persuasive way. 80% of people agreed that this would change their community for the better. You found statistics and facts when you did your when you found your 6 sources of information. So you should have some statistics and facts in there. And then you could use rhetorical questions, which is a question which implies its own answer. So you would say, don't you want success? Who doesn't want success? And who doesn't want safety for animals? Who doesn't want safety for people? Okay, so those are the types of things that you would use in your persuasive proposal. Again, if you look on page 20 of the document that I just mentioned, it's in there. Also, on page 21, there are there are links to where you can find your local member of parliament, where you can find your Senedd member. So if you want to write to those people, there's links there how you can find them. There's also the WJEC critical thinking. Oh, blurred, so annoying. Anyway, there's also the WJEC critical thinking and problem solving blended learning resource. So you can have a look on there, how best to lay out your persuasive proposal. Now, this proposal has to be 500 words. Okay, so the document you hand in will be more than 500 words because you're actually going to find out from whatever link you find who your audience is and who you're going to address, and you are pretending that you're going to write an email to this person. You don't actually send the email, but you're writing it out as if you are, or a letter, and it's got to be 500 words. But you will do this after you have created the questions, answered them and evaluated them, and selected the appropriate one. So step one, as I mentioned, is to identify using meaningful questions a complex problem that needs to be solved in the chosen area. Step two, which we should have done last week, is to identify and justify a variety of solutions to solve the problem and evaluate each solution. Step three, which we will do in this week, determine and justify the most appropriate solution. Step 4 is to produce the persuasive proposal that is evidence-based and convincing. And step 5 is to deliver the persuasive proposal to an identified person or organisation. We physically don't have to deliver it. Okay, so, but you need to get the name and the address and make it look like you are actually sending it to that person, or that company, the organisation, the government, whoever you decide that is an appropriate audience for the persuasive proposal that you're going to be delivering. The word count is 500 words. It needs to be an email or a letter. It needs to be a persuasive tone. There are resources on the WJEC website to help you. You must show that you have evaluated the solution. So you must show at least a few solutions, evaluate each of them to enable you to reach the conclusion why the solution you've chosen is the valid solution that you're going to be using. It needs to be evidence-based. You need to use the evidence that you found in the sources that you did for task 1B. It needs to be convincing, and it needs to include appropriate language, which we just mentioned, persuasive language. Okay, so step 1, you refer to page 21. Step 2, you're going to refer to page 22. Okay, I think I've said all that I need to say on that. I'll do another video on the rest of task 3 by next week, because I've got a funny feeling that there won't be many in this week. If there is, I'm happy to go through everything with you. I'm going to be preparing a lesson and I'm going to be there anyway. So if you come to our normal room at normal time, that'll be fine. Any questions, just message me. This video isn't that good, I understand, because it's a quick make now to help you through any points that you're a bit stuck on. But if I wasn't clear on anything, just message me. Okay? Anyway, thanks guys. I hope I was clear.